and found I had some issues with my liver, and my kidneys were also not functioning.
When you have kids, they want everything. Marketing does a phenomenal job with getting their attention. And thankfully I've never been in the position to say no because I can't afford it. I've been in the position to say no, you don't need that right now.
What ends up happening is most people just take what's called the straight line depreciation, and most accountants aren't proactive. By doing the cost setting and getting all these losses, you're actually benefiting yourself because you're going to reduce that tax liability from the gain on the sale. So you're not going to lose out on that. Also, you can use the losses from one property to offset the income or the gains from the sale of another property.
Welcome to the Chris Salerno Show, your go-to for real estate, business, health, and family insight. I'm Chris Salerno, CEO of QC Capital. Each episode, we explore the latest trends and expert advice from industry leaders. Whether you're an investor, entrepreneur, or seeking balance, this show provides an inspiration you need. Join us and elevate your game on the Chris Salerno Show.
Welcome to the Chris Salerno Show. I'm your host, Chris Salerno. I have a very good friend, long friend, Yonah Weiss with us. We're going to talk cost seg and much more on how you can save money by deducting the depreciating your assets and saving money on your taxes. Yonah does all of our business for us when it comes to our properties, and he helps our investors save money on their taxes by depreciation. So we're going to dive into it. Yonah, thanks so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure, Chris. Long time since I've been to Charlotte, but I think the first time I was ever in Charlotte was about 5-6 years ago. We met up then. And it's just amazing to see how much has happened since then.
Oh, it's unbelievable. Unbelievable, the growth and not only the growth, but especially the market environment too. I'm sure, we'll definitely touch on the market environment, what we've both seen and what we've both been through. Let's start back, who's Yonah in the younger days? Let's talk, younger days, high school, college. Talk to us about
before the gray hair got into it, dude.
If you're listening on this, I encourage you to just hop over to YouTube because he has a beautiful long beard. So hop over to YouTube and take a look at it. But yes, before all of that, who is Yonah?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in Southern California, and
oh, did you?
Yeah, was really LA, and ended up going to college in San Diego. Was really into sports, but
what'd you play?
I was very active in soccer, right, until I broke my leg in a kid.
My son loves soccer. He does it. He does it competitively twice a week now. And then obviously the days he doesn't, him and I are doing it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's such a it's a great. I mean, for me, it was huge team building skills, or just being part of teams. Since I was nearly 3 years old, I played very active. It was a high school team. Broke, like I said, my leg in a game that really changed the trajectory of my life in a lot of ways because. For one, a lot of my focus was, in sports and practicing and doing that. And it was a really severe break, was bedridden for 3 weeks, and it took 6 months to.
What happened? Did someone come in for the ball and take your chest?
Yeah, well, basically they slid speed right into my shin, broke directly through both shin bones, entirely. And thank God it didn't break the skin. It was a compound. We always think that. It was extreme.
Pain. Oh, I believe it.
And it took me 6 months to recover. Basically, I didn't, various things, didn't really get back into playing and sports for that matter. And was, kind of took other passions along the way. So, I mean, that really led me from one thing to another to becoming much more involved in my spiritual journey, really at that young age. Until I really wanted to visit Israel. I'm Jewish, Orthodox. I'm very, very religious, very spiritual. I'd never been to what we call an old man.
You never been there?
I had at that time.
How old were you?
So the first time I visited, I was 20. I wanted to go right after high school. Never worked out.
So mom and dad, are they still in California?
They were until recently retired and moved to Las Vegas. But
okay, so they're still in the United States.
Yeah.
Oh wow! And so when you said, "Hey, I want to go back," and see where my land is.
Yeah, wanted to visit.
Well, be sure they were very encouraging.
They were to a certain extent. It's a very big part of our religion is the connection to the land. Everything basically is connected to there for daily prayers and everything like that. But yeah, never had been. So visited, took my junior year study abroad. Was able to get credits.
Perfect. And you studied there?
I studied there in Jerusalem, and that was amazing. And loved it. and basically decided I didn't want to leave. At that point, what I ended up going back to graduate and basically got me first claim.
No way.
Fast.
So what was mom and dad thinking when you said, "Hey, after college, I'm in this"?
My father was basically said like he knew
Yeah.
that was like he knew me. He knew like if I ever went, like I wouldn't come back. Basically,
And do you have siblings?
I do have two older brothers. Well, one passed away, but
I'm sorry to hear about that. Are they here, or is he here in?
in California.
Oh, so they're here in the States, and are they very religious?
No, unfortunately, no.
Okay.
So we have some differences,
Which is fine.
yeah, which is great.
Yeah, you guys can still get along and things like that. Yeah.
Exactly.
So they're not as religious as you are.
No, I'm like okay, we'll say like
The top of the top. And so they were encouraging. They said, "Hey, go ahead and try it out."
it was they'd always encouraged me to do what made me happy
Yeah.
in life, and even
As parents should.
exactly, and as myself having
You have
the
6
kids,
children.
I have 6 kids. My dad was just 20, and she's
Kudos to your wife. She has a house full.
she does, and I'm seeing it now. Having a few teenagers and seeing trying to just encourage them to do what makes them happy. Which, as a parent, sometimes you want to try to steer them in the right direction and tell them don't do that and don't do that or don't go there or don't hang out with these people or what have you. But in the end of the day, you have to let them make their own decisions and do what is right for each one individually because they're all different.
I always say that is you can have 6, you can have 10, and each individual one is going to be completely different. And how I raise my son is, hey, you can do that. That's fine, but here are the consequences. So I'll let you go. You already know what the consequences are. If you climb up halfway to the ladder and you want to act a fool, you're going to fall. You can break a bone. And it's going to hurt. And I let him know that ahead of time, but I still let him do it because he needs to understand. And then it also builds trust amongst parents because, I mean, as you and I both know, growing up, we would never listen to our parents. But then when someone else would tell us the same thing, we'd listen to them. So it helps build that trust because it's like, okay, when you do fall, you're going to hurt yourself. And so if they do fall and they hurt themselves, they're like, okay, he told me this, now I need to listen.
For sure.
Yeah.
So it was, a long spiritual journey, which again led me to Israel in Jerusalem, lived there and met my wife there 22 years ago. And yeah, literally almost exactly to the day, 22 years ago we met. And
Got an age anniversary?
no, not ours. But when we met, we had the springtime.
I was gonna say, you probably wouldn't be here right now. You'll probably be with her if it was.
Exactly.
So talk to us right after you left college. You went over there. What were you seeking and as a job and what were you looking for?
Yeah, I mean, I was really just seeking just growth in learning, continuing my education. And there are a lot of what we call yeshivas, they're religious institutions, basically like post-collegiate scholarly program.
Oh, really?
Studying the Bible and studying
Oh, that's good.
Jewish law. Very intense places, and there are literally thousands of them across the world, but even Israel. And so I spent many years just continuing my studies there, becoming a rabbi, and doing all the real in-depth daily study for sometimes 12 to 16 hours a day, very in-depth.
And you're updating mom and dad about everything.
Yeah. So we're getting back and forth, honestly, but and that took and I even though I got married and we started having kids and started teaching, and that was really something I had done previously as well, doing tutoring and teaching things like that, and so that was really something that I felt most natural, most comfortable doing, and really didn't seek any monetary, financial status whatsoever. Like I've always been very frugal and always been very spiritualistic and not materialistic, which means I have zero luxuries.
Yeah.
Like literally
Zero.
zero.
Wow.
Like I don't have a watch, or car, or, like nothing fancy whatsoever.
I'm in the same kind of in the same mode. I wear all black. It's the same company. Like it's not fancy. Yeah, I mean it's $75 pants that last me forever. So like I keep it very simple like that. I do like nice hotels. But yeah, I think it's to me having it simple like that. I wake up, I know what I'm gonna throw on, I throw it on, I'm out the door within 5 minutes, literally 5 minutes. My girlfriend takes 2 hours to get ready, and I said, let me know on like 1 hour and 55 minutes, and I can do everything within 5 minutes. I'm out the door. So I'll go to the gym, I'll work, I'll do things like that. But it's good to to enjoy the finer things in life, and then it's also good to see where you in this journey of life where you feel is best for you. In the journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And everyone finds their own place.
Yeah.
But for me, there was actually a certain point where we had a little bit of a health crisis in our immediate family. And so that was 10 years ago. I don't want to get into too many details, but essentially what happened was, having continued accruing student debt that I had and just kind of living a very simple life, I realized, the teacher salary and what I was making, I wasn't even able to pay my bills. Now with this huge health bills that insurance didn't cover,
Yeah.
I was literally underwater.
And was that, if you don't mind me asking, was that insurance in the United States or?
It was in Israel.
Yeah. Oh, in Israel. And do they have universal health insurance there?
They do. I mean, they have different plans, but yeah, they have universal health insurance, but it doesn't cover
Everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Got it. So it's only certain things they cover there.
Exactly. And this was something that was like above and beyond, unfortunately. And it was basically like, also at the moment of crisis, but it was an awareness for me that I need to make some major changes.
To watch your health.
Not just health, but it was more just I need to make financial changes.
So that too.
Yeah, because I mean, health obviously is very important.
Yeah.
But I was literally underwater. I never thought about money, really. Never had any real financial education.
Did mom and dad teach you about money? Like, for example, my parents did not teach me about money. They taught me what not to do with it.
Right.
Like how not to manage it, how not to invest. They've never even bought stock in their life. The only stock she has is from her 401k after she retired. Like that's it. So it's like they didn't teach me at a young age is, hey, you should set aside X amount to invest and watch it compound. This is what compounding means and things like that.
Yeah, I never had any of that
Yeah.
either. And so for me, it was like an awakening. It was like, okay, now what do I do? I'm, tens of thousands of dollars in debt. And that's being very, very suddenly saying probably closer to the 100. And what happened was I was like, I need to find something else that's going to make some money. Where I even start looking? And I had no idea. But thank God I had, friends who were successful.
Oh, for sure.
I, just reached out to everyone that I knew at that time. I was like, listen, this is what I'm going through. I need to figure something out. And I'm really open to any opportunity. So one thing led to another. A few amazing people in my life kind of helped out. And one gentleman in particular, one of my mentors, amazing guy, very successful in mutual funds for the past 4 years. And he, sat me down and is like, listen, you have this huge financial burden on your shoulders right now. You can't even think about finding a job or finding a new opportunity. But when you're trying to figure out how to pay rent and pay case birth, bills and food, literally.
Did you have kids at that time?
I did, yeah. And so
And that on top of it too, I grew up where I can only shop at the dollar store, which I don't know if they have dollar stores in Israel, but the dollar store here, and I can only pick 5 items because my parents couldn't afford it. And when you have kids, they want everything. Marketing does a phenomenal job with getting their attention. And thankfully, I've never been in the position to say no because I can't afford it. I've been in the position to say no, you don't need that right now. But it's definitely very difficult to be in that position.
Yeah, I mean, and that's amazing education they give a child to tell them, yeah, we can definitely, well, it is, but it's the right thing.
Correct.
And
You don't need it.
exactly. So this gentleman actually sat me down and he gave me an interest-free loan. And he said basically, well, let's write down what your budget is. Let's write down what your monthly expenses are. I'm going to give you 3 months free and clear. You don't have to think about money. And then he's like, pay me back whenever you get it. And that literally kept me afloat. It was able to give me kind of a clear head and space of mind to network and find opportunities, which led me to finding a good friend of mine who introduced me to the commercial real estate, literally. And so it was all through
Relationships.
exactly.
Yeah.
And one thing led to another. We don't have to get into the whole story, but ended up working in commercial real estate, doing some brokerage and learning the real estate in Israel as well. And then also in the States and doing so remote things, doing commercial mortgages and hard money loans remotely from Israel in working in the States, and really learned everything there was to know about commercial real estate for a couple of years until I ended up through other networking, through other connections, meeting this company in Madison, like you said, worked me for 7, 8 years now.
So yeah, and we're gonna dive deep into Madison, which we use on all of our properties. We use you, Yonah, and you help our investors save a lot of money on their taxes through depreciation, especially in the car washes being a 15-year appreciation schedule, which we like a lot because of the equipment. But before we dive into, I want to talk a little bit about health and food. You live in a different country. How does the food differ? I'm Italian. I love Italy. The food's totally different in Italy. It's healthier. It's not processed. How's the food over there?
Well, I think everything nowadays is processed to a certain extent. But more recently, my wife has been a lot more health conscious, and I have as well.
Good.
And we try to get organic produce, and there is thank God a lot of stuff available over there, but there's so much additives. There's so much things going in foods nowadays, and I'm not an expert at this whatsoever. But the past a few months ago, I actually met with a doctor because I wasn't feeling great. Yeah, I was feeling fine.
You weren't 100%.
Exactly. Yeah.
Something
We just wanted to see, what's going on. Listen,
something's a little off.
I'm 44 years old. I'm not getting younger, and I just wanted to know, like, hey,
You'd rather be proactive than react.
oh, 100%. Exactly. So, through some great connections, I met someone and did some tests and things and found I had some issues with my liver, and my kidneys were also not functioning, 100%. I actually have a family history of diabetes in my family. I don't have it at all. My father doesn't. My grandfather did. His father did. And so there was, some family history. So I always have to be conscious of, yeah, sure. And basically, this doctor and another health really guru, so a researcher and very expert in their field, and basically said, like, try this new diet, try some things, cut some things out, see if it works, take some enzymes, some supplements, and it did that. Tried it for a month, and literally,
How do you feel? Totally different.
after the first month, I literally first of all lost like 10 pounds.
What was the big things you cut out?
I hope you're enjoying today's episode. Just a quick reminder to make sure you never miss an episode. Stay connected with us by following us on social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, TikTok at Chris_Salerno_. And don't forget to subscribe to YouTube to catch the video versions of our episode. You'll get exclusive content, behind the scenes footage, and much more. Head over to YouTube, Chris_Salerno now, and hit the subscribe button. Stay tuned because we've got more great content coming right after this.
The big things was grains,
Yeah.
gluten,
Oh my.
grains, and basically any dairy except for goat, organic, stuff like that, and oils, like basically just even anything cooked with olive oil.
Oh no.
Or anything other than olive oil, basically, or some other organic.
I only cook with like ghee. That's all I cook with.
There you go.
I cut out olive oil, anything like that. My nutritionist told me the same thing, and I'm down about 15 pounds, and I've cut out, which I love, pizza. I've cut out bread, gluten, and then I've cut out dairy. So I will not eat dairy, cheese, nothing. And then bread I stay away from. Now I get 3 cheat meals a month, and I do take those cheat meals with my son. But yeah, making those little changes in your diet. But the biggest thing on top of those changes is you have to have discipline. Like, and especially when you have kids. Like I can, and I want my son to live a wonderful life as a child, so I can get him a pizza. And I can sit there and watch him eat it, and I can smell it, and I won't touch it because I have discipline. And I think that's the hardest part about a diet. It's not you changing your food. It's you having discipline to not eat that.
Exactly. Yeah, and being focused and knowing what to do, what not to do. So yeah, I mean, cutting out sugars and cutting out all that stuff for me was literally, it changed.
Makes you feel so much better.
It made me feel
You sleep better, everything.
slept better, lost weight. I'm not overweight at all, but I lost like 10 pounds. And good. And the biggest thing was the kidney, the liver situation, because literally from like in the red to like green, like 100%. 100
Really?
change.
She hasn't lied changing your diet, like
Just changing diet. Wow. Yeah, crazy. And some enzymes and things like that. But yeah, thank God, doing well. Been on this plan for about 3 years or so. It's difficult, I would say, because you know being used to eating certain things your whole life and just
what
eat regular things, it's hard to kind of make changes. But
Oh, it's very difficult. Not only that, what's extremely difficult for you too, and I face this is when you travel. There's nothing good in a damn airport. There's no healthy food, and when I go to a restaurant, I'm like, look, can you just give me like a chicken breast, and like really that's it, because like I don't eat potatoes and things like that. I just give me a chip, like 2 chicken breasts, and I know those chicken breasts are not organic, but it's like there's really nothing else, especially when you travel, when you're going from city to city, things like that.
yeah, so it's been hard. Traveling for a few days now, but yeah, it's been hard. But yeah, so very simple eating salads and chicken meat, things like that. And also on top of that, I have a whole kosher
Yeah,
Aussies, and so it's difficult to keep up now as well.
which I've joked with my other Jewish friends is like we should open up a kosher restaurant in Charlotte because there's no kosher restaurant in Charlotte. And I know there's a lot of business that are being done here, and it's just like when you come to a city like Charlotte, it's a wonderful city, but there's nothing really towards your diet. So you now have to either go into a grocery store to find certain items, and then cook them.
Yeah, and I'm used to it because you travel quite a bit.
A lot.
So, but the first time on this new diet, but the same kind of thing. I can figure it out.
Yeah. No, I love it. I love it. You got to be disciplined, which you are. Now let's talk about saving people taxes, saving people money on their taxes, cost segregation. For those that may not know anything about cost segregation, bonus depreciation, and also Madison SPEC, let's start from day one. Walk us through, who's Madison SPEC? Why did you fall in love with working with them, 6, 7, 8 years, coming from the commercial real estate industry to, working with them in the commercial real estate industry? To walk us through that.
So yeah, Madison SPECS, it's biggest national cost segregation company. We'll talk about what cost segregation is in a little bit. What made me most interested was having worked in, and it is going to be a fascinating exercise for anyone listening to this as well. Like, what is cost seg, right? When I heard about this company, made the introduction, because they were looking for someone in the business development. I've been working in real estate for a couple of years. I had a background in teaching, and they were looking for someone just to come in business development. I basically asked everyone that I knew, that I met the past couple of years prior to that, if they knew what cost seg was, what cost segregation was. And literally, the answers were from one end of the spectrum I got. But some people said, I have no idea, never heard of that before. And some people said, yeah, it's the best thing, since sliced bread. You use it all the time.
You are spot on. I've spoken to some business owners who own a great amount of commercial real estate. I'm like, hey, you're depreciating your asset, right? What? Yeah, like you're going to depreciate this. And oh, what is that? And I'm like, oh, come on, you really don't know.
The fascinating thing for me, and what really did it for me, the light bulb was, I mentioned there were two ends of the spectrum now, but it was the numbers that blew my mind. It was literally 99% of people that I asked said I had no idea what it is. And there was 1%, I asked it a couple hundred people because he was trying to just get networking more. And only a couple people literally reached back out and said, yeah, we know what this is. And it was one person who was one of my mentors at that time, a very successful, developer for doing it for 30 years. Is like, oh yeah, we use Madison SPECS for all our cost seg. And I was like, so tell me, how come no one else that I'm talking to has ever heard of this? And he's like, I have no idea. He's like, for me,
Uncle Sam doesn't want you to know it.
Well, that's part of it. To be honest, it's not something that people are
Advertising out there. Yeah.
They weren't. I've been doing my best since I started doing it to get the word out there, but it's actually considered the correct way to depreciate a property. So,
Sorry, yeah. Sorry, investor call.
All right, go ahead. We'll chop that out. And my apologies. Keep going.
No. So cost segregation is something that saves people millions of dollars in taxes. But like you said, although Sam doesn't really want you to know about it, because it really means that it's going to be, less revenue
For them.
For them, yes. However, they consider it to be the correct way to depreciate your property. So let's take a step back and just understand what cost seg is, what depreciation is. Anytime you buy a property, besides your primary residence, whether it's commercial or residential property, you're able to take a tax deduction called depreciation. Now, it's just called depreciation. It doesn't actually mean your property is going down in value. It's a borrowed term, right? And people think, oh, why would I want to depreciate? I don't want my property to go in value. No, it's the name of a tax deduction. And what this says is, based on your purchase price, it's completely subjective to you as the owner when you buy it. How much did you pay? Now I can take that purchase price, subtract a little bit for the land, which does not depreciate, and then literally write off the entire value of the property for your taxes. But you can't do it all at once. So you're doing it over a long period of time, 39 years for commercial properties. For residential and multifamily, it's a 27.5 year, but still pretty long time to wait.
And don't forget car washes.
And car washes, and there are some other things that have 15-year schedule. And so what ends up happening is most people just take what's called the straight line depreciation. And most accountants aren't proactive in telling people about how
It's just mind-boggling. Like, you want an accountant not to just do your taxes and say you owe X amount or oh you don't owe anything. You want an accountant to be proactive and say, hey, you're going to owe some money. It's important. Have you looked at these different strategies? And that's for the accountants out there too. That's how you build stronger clienteles, because they're going to refer you more people by you giving that level of customer service. And I've said this multiple times. I said this a couple days ago. I was having cigars with an investor, and I said, what is going to separate companies now with AI coming in? Which, trust me, you use AI, I use AI, love AI. However, what's going to separate us from our competitors is our level of customer service. I like to stay at the Ritz-Carlton when I go on vacation. That is a certain level of customer service compared to a Motel 8. And you know your level of customer service. And that's how you have to have your business, is that type of level of customer service, so you really separate yourself from your competitors.
For sure. But to me, to be fair, most accountants aren't even really interested in that. They're just,
And it's a dying industry too. No one really wants to do it.
yeah. I mean, it's hard to imagine what's going to be in 5-10 years. I assume more AI coming in, and who knows what changes are coming to the tax code will be necessary by then. But most accountants are just number punchers. If they are not tax strategists and they're not proactive, and I hear this complaint literally on a daily basis from clients, and I'm referring good real estate focused CPAs who are proactive. I'm referring them business every single day because people are asking me on the phones, do you know someone who understands this? And yeah, I'm happy to share those who do. And, I've seen some of my close accountant friends grow their businesses substantially.
Yep.
But what ends up happening is people are just taking the straight line depreciation, which means taking that little equal amount every single year. What cost segregation is, it's a advanced form of depreciation where the IRS says through an engineering study of the property, we could break down the components of the property into their respective useful lives. And so there are certain things that actually depreciate on a 5-year schedule and other things on a 15-year. And the main majority of most properties are a 27-hour for full of the structural components of the property. And it used to be called component depreciation, which makes a lot more sense because we're literally saying, hey, the chairs and the tables and all the furniture and the window treatments, all that stuff, all that stuff that's inside the carpeting, all that depreciates on a 5-year schedule. These different components have a different depreciation mode, and we're going to use that. And so by doing a cost segregation, breaking the property down in this way, we can front load a huge percentage of depreciation to those early years of ownership instead of taking, a little bit every single year and probably not even seeing all those deductions. So it's a cash flow mechanism by basically pulling forward potential depreciation deductions to the first year or the first few years, and allows people to have more cash flow, reinvest. As you mentioned, investors love it because it brings down, their tax liability, which means they can invest more freely.
Yep. Nope. You're 100% correct on that. Let's talk about bonus depreciation. A lot of people don't know what bonus depreciation is. I've been praying to the real estate gods that the new representatives in the House, the Congress, and the new administration passes bonus depreciation back in effect, which you may know a lot more about that than I do. So let's chat about it. So what's bonus depreciation for those individuals that don't know it? And then also, have you heard anything Have you heard anything through the grapevine that it may be coming back?
Yeah, bonus depreciation has been a huge topic from past several years. Most recently, obviously, because certain tax changes. Basically, what happened was when Trump got elected the first time, he made a huge tax reform on the tax cuts and job tax. It was the biggest tax reform in 40 years, and he introduced something called 100% bonus depreciation. What that said was, once you do a cost variation study and allocate those components to faster lives, so like I mentioned earlier, the 5-year, the 15-year depreciation schedules, you now have the option to take all of those accelerating deductions in the first year, 100% boost. And so anything that depreciates in a property faster, and for most properties, 20 to 30% of the property is actually in that faster 5 and 50-year categories, you can take that as a first year deduction. So it went from, just think about it like this, just numbers, very simple. It went from doing regular straight line depreciation, let's say, about 2% of the total property value you can take as a deduction every year. So similar, let's say, $1 million property, about $20,000 deduction. Okay. Went from that to, if you did a cost seg, you could double or triple that during the first few years, right? $70,000 deduction. That's amazing. Comes bonus depreciation and says you can take 20 or 30% of that value. So we're talking $200,000 to $300,000 deduction in the first year. That's a 10x.
That's significant.
That's a 10x change. And so what that did was between 2017 and end of 2022, that allowed you to take 100% of those deductions in the first year. When they put the law on the books, they had made it phase out in stages. And so in 2023, it started to phase out, went down to 80%, which meant you can take 80% of those deductions in the first year. For remaining 20%, you could still spread over like 5 or 15 years ago. 24 was 60%. This year, 25, you buy a property, it's down to 40%. However, there has been a lot of talk about bringing back 100% bonus. In fact, Trump actually mentioned it on 2 different occasions in the past few weeks.
Oh, did he?
That he's going to bring back 100% bonus depreciation.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
I heard all the other, nonsense that everyone's bashing him for, but they didn't say that.
Depends on which news channels you're paying attention.
Oh, I know. Well, anything social media, but I would say the more conservative news channels.
Okay, there you go. So yeah, he did mention that explicitly, which means, and he has he basically wanted to bring back all of the things that he had originally done in the first tax reform that had started to phase out, and wants to bring it back. So that would include bonus depreciation, but he mentioned bonus depreciation explicitly. So it's 100%, and that's also good, not just for real estate. You have to understand, this is also good for manufacturing.
Yeah,
Businesses, any equipment, any type of, manufacturing materials that you buy that are,
if you own a construction company with large equipment, bulldozers to large trucks, you can depreciate those.
exactly. It's taking a 100% deduction in the first year of those assets is a game changer for people, for natural laws. People
People understand that, when you own a construction company like that, you can take those deductions. And the amount that it's going to cost you for the fee to Madison is minimal compared to what you're going to get taxing.
Yes, exactly. And again, we're not dealing on a contingent level either, so it's literally like a flat fee.
Yeah, that's it.
It's crazy how little it is when you look at the real numbers. But saving people millions of dollars every single basically week. If just yours, it's mind-boggling to me. So what really sparked it for me, that light bulb moment, going back to what I said earlier, was seeing that there was such a huge discrepancy between the people in the real estate industry that had no idea what this was. And I kept asking them, why don't you do cost seg? They don't know what it is. So the number one reason why people don't do a conservation is just because they don't know what it is. And so I, having that teaching background, realized
There's an opportunity here.
exactly all I need to do was just start educate people, and they'll do the rest. And one of my clients mentioned to me is like, no, this sells itself. You don't need to even do anything. You just need to tell people what it is.
Hey, this is how it can benefit you. You should do.
Yeah. Do you want to save $1 million in taxes this year? Well, I want to pay that. It's like, yeah. And like my mentor said, it's a no-brainer. So that was the light bulb moment for me. And that's basically what I've been doing personally for the past 70 years, is just educating people.
I love that. Love that. And I want to touch on 2 things which a lot of people don't touch on. Talk to us about depreciation and recapture. A lot of sponsors don't tell investors this. There's ways to get around it, but a lot of people do not educate investors on what is depreciation or recapture.
It's a huge topic, and I appreciate you bringing it up because, like you said, most people don't talk about it. Recapture tax is considered an unrealized gain, which means when you sell a property, everyone knows what a capital gain tax is, right? If you made a profit between the purchase and the sale, you're taxed on that amount. So too, depreciation is considered an unrealized gain, which means you're not going to be taxed on the amount of depreciation taken during the life of ownership. Now, depreciation recapture does not mean, really important to bring this up, does not mean you pay it all back, which is what some people think. And erroneously, you see that come up on Big Pockets and all kinds of different forms.
You don't pay it all back.
You don't pay it back. That's not what recapture means. It's the name of a tax that you're subject to upon the sale of the property. Now, being subject to a tax is not the same thing as paying tax. Because, as you said, Chris, there are many different strategies of ways to defer or reduce or completely eliminate capital gain tax, but also the recapture tax. But it is really important to realize that it's not entire for why. The biggest thing about depreciation, I would say, for most investors is during the lifespan of the ownership, during the investment period, you're probably going to be paying little to zero taxes whatsoever on that investment. Of course, if there's a sale and you're going to be hit with a gain, you're going to have a taxable event that applies. However, there are a few things I'll mention here which are important, and a couple of them people don't even know about. Like, a lot of people know if they're investing in real estate, they know what a 1031 exchange, which is a legal way to basically pay no or defer the capital gain tax, also defers that recapture tax. It's a very complicated process. We're not getting into it now, but essentially, you buy a new property, sell the other one, and basically do some paperwork, some timing and whatnot, and you're able to do that. There's a couple other things. One is what's called a partial asset disposition. Okay, and this is a name of basically a tax law. Some people like to deal with a loophole, but essentially it says like this, right? With the cost, like I mentioned, we are identifying and allocating depreciation to different categories. So we're saying the carpeting, right? Carpeting, let's say you buy a multifamily property, right? We'll talk about car wash and right? No, that's a big thing.
Oh yeah.
People can understand if you have a single family home, if you have a carpet, you realize there's carpeting, there's flooring in there are appliances, window treatments, all kinds of things. Let's say that carpeting in your $1 million property costs, $20,000. So we're going to assign value of $20,000 to the carpeting, and it's going to depreciate on a 5-year schedule. You're going to take that deduction of the bonus depreciation in the first year. Where after 5 years has passed, you already depreciated that if you did a cost seg. So therefore, you no longer have the recapture tax on that component or that item. So it turns out even though you take much more depreciation up front by doing your cost seg, if you do this partial,
There's still time limit. So if you pass that time limit, you don't have to worry about taking that recapture.
Exactly. Well, it's not automatic, but by filling special form, again, you can basically wipe out a huge amount of the potential recapture tax that you would have through that. What's called the partial asset disposition. Check with your CPA and find out more about that. Another amazing thing to know is that passive losses, which are created from depreciation, can be used to offset the passive gain from the sale of real estate, which in simple terms means you invest in a car wash deal and get a huge depreciation chunk, and you end up with more deductions than you can actually use, which that creates a passive loss. Now, that carries forward. You can use it next year, but if you have this big passive loss, when you sell the property, that loss, basically that imaginary bank account of deductions, gets released and can be used to offset the gain from the sale. So by doing the cost seg and getting all these losses, you're actually benefiting yourself because you're going to reduce that tax liability from the gain on the sale. So you're not going to lose out on that. Also, you can use the losses from one property to offset the income or the gains from the sale of another property. So which means, let's say you invested in 5 different properties, right? And you all did cost seg. So you have this huge tax loss, and one property ends up selling. You'll probably have enough losses from the other properties to offset that gain, and you won't even have to worry about the recapture tax on that end. So the moral of the story is keep investing year after year, so you'll make sure to keep rolling that, you keep having deductions to use. However, if you don't, and you're kind of one one property person, buy one every 5 years, then sell it, and wait a couple more years to buy another one, then yes, you are going to have that recapture tax. You're going to have to figure out, make sure to,
Live in Puerto Rico or something.
or at least, factor that into your business plan.
Yeah, most definitely. Let's talk about the past couple of years have been a challenge. Very challenging multifamily space. You and I both know some great operators. Unfortunately, have had to give back properties, things like that. And that's just the nature of the business. We don't all want that, but it's the nature of the business. Walk us through, what happens in that scenario with the depreciation. You've already taken the depreciation. Now you've lost the property and or sold the property at a loss. A lot of people don't know that you still you gotta pay back that depreciation. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, that is unfortunate. And we've had a very difficult market, in the past year or two, but things are turning around. But yeah, I have seen, unfortunately, some people who have had, the first level is, the capital ball or something like that. But that you will take back. And to be honest, I only know of a couple scenarios, so I don't know. I know they're existing, and
Oh, yeah.
maybe more to come this year. We'll see. But yes, if you sell a property at a loss, or property's taking back, whatever, you still have that recapture tax as part of the sale because it still is considered a sale. One more ago. So, it is definitely something you need to be aware of.
Yeah, no, very much so. Very, very much so. I was spot on with that. I think, a lot of people do not educate their investors well, and a lot of investors are, not educated on cost segregation, depreciation recapture, and if the property does sell at a loss, what does that look like?
No, it's not something that a lot of people like to even think about.
Yeah.
When they're trying to sell it, they try and like everything's rosy and peachy. No one talks about, well, I wouldn't say no, but very few people talk about, the risks involved and what happens if the deal goes wrong.
Yeah.
Or something sour happens. Now, unfortunately, for good reason, people don't want to talk about that. People want to be optimistic, and they may kind of put it in the, obviously in some legal wording, so it's in there, right? And operating agreement, all about the risks and things like that.
I've always told investors, because there's risk to everything you do. There's risk that you and me, if we go out to dinner tonight, that we get hit by a car, knock on wood. It doesn't happen. But that's a risk that we take by getting in our car and driving home or anything like that. And I always have told investors, hey, the risk is we lose everything. Like, that is the risk. That's the worst case scenario. It can happen. It's happened before. This is not a investment where it is 100% de-risk. There is always risk in any investment.
Yeah. One of the biggest red flags is when you see anyone write the word guaranteed.
Yeah. You can't guarantee it. You can't guarantee you're going to wake up in the morning.
I mean, guaranteed returns is also like, that's ridiculous. Like, oh, I know they will. Now, there are many scenarios, and obviously being unscrupulous and doing some investments that are more risky is going to be more likely to have some of those bad repercussions that we're talking about. But there are things that happen that are completely out of control. I invested in one property, for example, as a limited partner, and there was a tenant. It was a multi-use property, and one of the tenants just decided to pick up and leave, and to kind of go back on the contract, and that ended up going to a lawsuit through that. But because of that, number one, they had the legal fees. On top of that, there was no revenue from that tenant, which was a big portion of the cash flow from that property, and they, on top of it, it was such a niche kind of space, and they had a long-term contract that the person breached. It was a niche space. It became very difficult to find someone else to lease it.
And
Exactly. And so it ended up, losing money was the deal. And, they had the capital call, tried to cover things. And thank God it's now more stable. And, it's now stabilized, making some cash flow once again. But that was a period of about 18 months that when you had an investment where the pitch was X amount of cash flow, right? When you're investing for cash flow, it's different than investing for, equity and investing for long-term appreciation, things like that. When you're investing for cash flow, you kind of expect that, but there's a risk. And so this was a risk that was to no fault of the operators, really, to be honest. Like, the green people, they did their very best and they're continuing to do that, but it was literally out of their hands. And a lot of that, not just one, anecdotal example, but there are so many different things that can happen that are completely out out of your own control.
And that's the sucky part when you invest. Like, that is not the good feeling, is when you know you've done everything, but it's just out of your control. Like the market environment, high interest rates, people are not buying, the debt's too high to take on to buy these sites. You can't increase rents. Like, those are all out of your control, which it's not a good feeling. It's
Right. I mean, you can do a lot, and you probably do 90% to make the best efforts to make sure that everything is working in your favor. But there are certain things, like you said, the market conditions are open, interest rates being risen up from basically 0 to 6, 7, 8.
Oh God, crazy. Within like 6 months.
Yeah, there's not really much one can do about that. I mean, the biggest thing one can do is just be much more conservative on what type of debt you take on at any given stage. Back in 2018 through 2022, basically everyone was making tons of money.
Oh my God.
Bridge debt was the best thing ever.
Oh,
And people thought this is this is gonna keep going on forever.
Yeah.
And people kept doing those bridge debts and floating rates, which ended up killing a lot of people and putting unfortunate a lot of deals.
most definitely. Most definitely. We're seeing that now. We're definitely seeing that now. Talk to us about the podcast. You are a teacher. You always love to give back. I assume, obviously, you wanted to create the podcast to help give that knowledge back. Talk to us about that.
Well, I was first introduced to the whole idea of podcasting.
Yeah.
Back, shortly after I started working in the costing business and doing the education, and was invited to be a guest on podcasts. I was like, hey, this is great. I like this format. It's great for. Ended up doing a ton of podcasts more after the hour. And after about a year or so of doing that, I was like, I really enjoy this kind of style of a conversation and the medium. I should start my own. And it literally took from the time I decided I wanted to do that to the time of actually launching my podcast about a year until it came to be. But I ended up launching Weiss Advice podcast, and essentially all it is, it's a weekly podcast where I interview people that I know, like yourself and many other successful people, and just want to get to know them a little bit more, learn about their lives, learning about their business strategies, what makes them tick, what makes their business successful. And so we can, all just learn and glean from that. So it's just similar to this present. It's really just fun, conversational. You get to know podcasts, you get to know people. Is that?
I love it. One of your sayings I have right here is you often say it's not how much you make, but it's how much you keep. How has that mindset changed your life, especially in your youth, I should say? When you had that mentor who believed in you and trusted in you. How has that saying really shaped who you are today?
I mean, you can look at this on many levels. It's a very deep quote, to be honest. But I mean, it's simply put, a lot of people think they're making money, and then how much is actually going on. Now, if you are a W-2 employee, that bunch of your money gets taken out for your paycheck before you even see it. Right? But with real estate investing specifically, and all the tax benefits that come along with it and the cost side, you basically don't pay taxes. And so it's not about how much you make. It's about how much you actually keep and how much you take more with you. On a more deeper spiritual level, I think it's it's what you do in this world, right? We're here in this world to do and make an impact and make a difference. But how much of it actually stays with you, stays from the generation to generation? How is your passing laws?
I think what really opened my eyes the past 2.5 years is you and I are working so hard because we are kids that we want to leave something to, whether they want it or not at that time. That's what we want to do. I assume you do as well. We think alike, so I assume you do. What opened my eyes up is, I love multifamily investing. It is great. However, it's mainly an appreciation play, where you are hoping in 5 years you can sell the property for a profit and make your money. And what shifted my eyes during the recession or market transition that we are in and have seen the past 2 years is that my personal investment portfolio is not about, hey, let's invest and what are we going to get in 5 years? It's what is today, March 20th, what are we getting today? And that's where my mind changed, and is what can I take home today compared to in 5 years from now, because so much can happen. And we just saw that in the past 2 years, where I know people that had $100-200 million net worth and it's gone. just wiped off because their property valuations have wiped off. They're not making anything. So that I love that saying that you have.
So what have you found has been those cash flow opportunities, Chris?
You've been a very big advocate and helpful individual for helping our investors save capital. For us, it's the car washes. We're buying in very good locations where you can't replace real estate. So we buy the real estate, we do not lease it out, and we own in very, very good high traffic locations. We're not owning in the rural areas of the Carolinas. We own in high traffic locations where you can't replicate that location. And I found that owning a business plus the real estate is extremely valuable. Owning just real estate, you're maxed out and it's 100% appreciation unless you're going to hold it for the next 20 to 50 years. But it's still appreciation because you're holding it for long. When you buy in New York City, you're not buying because of cash flow. The cap rates, the cap rates are like 1 to 2%, probably even in today's market. But you are not buying because of cash flow. You are buying because of appreciation. You hope that obviously New York City keeps on in its growth and you're going to sell in 5 years for more money than what you paid for. And so my eyes have been opened up to saying, hey, I need to focus on cash flow and businesses that come with the real estate because we can use that depreciation at a very high level. And also it's a tangible asset that we physically own the real estate. Worst case scenario, we'll have a drive-through coffee shop or, we'll make something out of it. Worst case scenario.
That makes sense.
So yeah, we love it. Investors love it. Everyone's happy on it.
And has an amazing benefit when it comes to CASA, where it does the whole property is 15-year
It is.
property, which means it's eligible for the bonus to concentration.
Yeah.
So being under was a bonus back.
I'm waiting for this new administration to bring it back so we can even get more depreciation with these assets. But that's a big part that a lot of people don't know. We see stores, car washes, you have that 15-year depreciation. It's huge depreciation. I love it. I love it. How do you stay on your sleep with you traveling so much? With all these time zones?
I just I feel
It's a mindset.
it is. It really is. I don't get a ton of sleep to begin with.
Yeah.
And when I'm in Israel, I work on
Opposite.
Eastern time, working on a different time schedule.
What are they, 12 hours ahead?
It's 7 hours ahead.
So see, I like that. I don't mean to interrupt. I like that because when I traveled to like Italy, I believe they're very similar, or yeah, maybe an hour off. But I like it because in the mornings I can have my cup of coffee. No one's bothering me. I can do whatever I want. And then about 1 o'clock is when people, 12:01, people are waking up. And so I'm like, okay, now I can get to work. I work till midnight, 1 in the morning, take my 4 hours sleep because I normally sleep that long. I wake up, work out, have a cup of coffee, and, not be bothered. And then, early afternoon is when everyone's waking up over here. I like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Once you're in the rhythm, I like it.
It took a little while to get used to, but I've been doing it for so long that
It's natural, No, that's good. That's good. How can people get a hold of you if they're looking to help depreciate their assets and save some money on taxes?
Yeah, I mean, you can find me. I'm very active on all the social
Oh, yeah.
media platforms, especially the LinkedIn. That's our biggest one.
You're extremely active.
Instagram, X, Facebook, all those other things as well. You can go to YonahWeiss.com and or you can go to Madison SPECS. That's our company page. But if anyone wants, if you do have a property, any type of property besides for permanent residence, and you want to get a free estimate to see what the tax benefits would even look like, feel free to reach out. But do me a favor. If you do go and follow me on any of the social platforms, I always tell people this. Take 10 seconds to write a little note. And just say, I heard you on the show, whatever. Doesn't matter what you write. Literally takes 5-10 seconds.
Oh, yeah.
It goes a long way because it starts the conversation. It's not just another follower to add to the list where I have no idea.
So I love it.
Take the time. Love taking.
And ladies and gentlemen, we use Madison, we use Yonah. It's a free estimate. We do free estimates for all of the properties we are going to acquire once we have them under contract, LOI, and we use that to provide to investors to let them know this is our estimated cost segregation that we're able to take in this year. And so it's extremely helpful. One thing I do love too, because we buy a lot of properties and we have all these properties in each individual funds, is that I'll reach out to Yonah and his team and they'll give me one PDF with all of the properties attached. And it's so easy for me to send that to an investor to say, here's one PDF with 7 properties that we are acquiring within the fund, and here's the breakdown of each of them. So if you guys have real estate, definitely reach out to Yonah. He's going to save you a lot of money. I promise you on that. Yonah, thanks so much for joining us. I hope you enjoy a beautiful evening here in Charlotte.
My pleasure. Great to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Chris Salerno Show. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and gained valuable insight to help you along your journey. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. If you have any questions or topics that you would like to cover, feel free to reach out directly to me. Shoot me a message on Instagram at Chris_Salerno_. Until next time, keep pushing forward and stay inspired.